So here is the Excel spreadsheet for that Butler company that was dealing with the fans. And so I'm just going to talk you through everything that I've done. In column A, this was the replenishment level. So I have 140 for right now, but you could just change these all to be 100, 110, 120, whatever you want to be. And I have this over in column G. Those are the different Qs that I've done. So the last one was 140. That's why column A says 140. But actually try it out for yourself. Change all those 140s to 100s and see what you get. So in A, I have 140 for my supplies. In column B, what I've done is I figured out the demand. So a couple things about this formula. It's something that we haven't seen. What I did first, so ignore the floor math. Talk about that in just a second. What I did first was that same formula from the Porticom example. So I did a random number. That's what this RAND and then parentheses is. And then my mean was 100, standard deviation was 40. So that gives me the norm inverse of that is going to give me demands with average 100, standard deviation 40. The issue is demand is not going to be a decimal. Demand is only going to be whole numbers. So this floor.math function in Excel is going to do the lower number without the decimal. So if this norm inverse gives me, let's say 62.4, using the floor.math will give me 62. So it's going to be the largest integer that was less than or equal to whatever this norm inverse gives us. So that's why I'm using that function. And you can see every time I press enter, everything changes on this spreadsheet, and that's because of that random number command that we're using. The random number generator gives you a random number every time you run it. So it's going to give you different numbers. So if your numbers are slightly off from mine as far as average goes, that's fine. As far as the number of excesses go, so a number of excess, let's look at this formula. I'm using an if command. So if B2 is less than A2, then we're going to have an excess. So what we're going to do is we're going to first look at B2 versus A2. So in the first row, really row 2, my supply was 140, my demand was 23. So I'm doing if B2 is less than A2, then the excess is the difference between the two, right? If, on the other hand, B was greater than or equal to A, then I don't have any excess, so I'll result 0. So the way I'm reading this formula is if the demand is less than supply, then what I want Excel to tell me is the difference between the two numbers. That'll be the excess. Otherwise, 0 is the excess. So that's where I got that formula. As far as my turn away, we're doing something very similar. Now in row 2, there is no turn away because the demand is less than the supply. But let's look at row 5, right? This is saying if demand is larger than supply, then give me the difference for my turn away, otherwise 0. Almost exactly the same as column C, it's just now we're kind of reversing it. For column E, I did that same formula for profit, so 50 times B2, and then minus, B2 is my demand, then minus the excess, minus the turn away. And you can see over here in columns G, H, and I, I've computed the Qs, so different Qs. So the one I have up right now is just the Q of 140. I went and did the average of E, and the reason I put this number, just typed it in, is because in column F, that's where I actually computed it. The issue is every time you press enter, all of these numbers are going to change because of that the random number command. So I would compute them in column F and then type them over in column H so you can have all this. And that's how I got all these numbers. So if your replenish level is 100, I got the average profit was 39.79.95. Yours is going to be slightly different. And then the service level was 0.9958. Remember, the service level was total supply over total demand. So you would just add up all of your supply divided by all of your demand. And that's how we would read this spreadsheet.